There's an eternal tension in the human soul between the desire for freedom and the desire to be told what to do by those in authority. The human ability to work together in partnership is one of the great strengths of humanity, as is the ability to dissent from the accepted wisdom of the day. Many pollsters have noted the trend that no matter the question, there's roughly a quarter of the population that will have an opposing view. Some have taken to calling it the idiot 25% of the population. And yet I see it as an evolutionary advantage, giving humanity unprecedented flexibility. Let's imagine we're in a small tribe about 60 people in the last ice age. Our leader, Thog, tall, handsome, and a great warrior, suggests a certain route to the winter caves. It's the route the tribe has regularly used for the past several years. But another member of the tribe, Uther, says, "There's been a lot of early snow, the glaciers are advancing, and I think that route will likely be blocked. Many might starve if we take that route. I know another route. It's a little longer with some challenging terrain, but we'll definitely make it to the winter caves." Uther is known as the thinker of the tribe. Maybe he's a medicine man, and sometimes he seems a little crazy, like when he starts talking about the spirits of the ancestors. Many outcomes are possible. Neither Thog nor Uther knows the actual truth about which route makes the best sense. Thog and Uther might be enemies with long simmering rivalries. Thog might demand the tribe take the traditional route, declaring that any who do not follow his decision should be banished from the tribe. Uther might respond that Thog makes poor decisions, thus questioning his leadership of the tribe. Maybe there are 10 to 15 people who side with Uther, and they take the alternate, longer route to the winter caves. The group following Thog all die, but the small band led by Uther survives. Maybe the group led by Uther, being much smaller in size, meets with another tribe who wipes them out. The tribe survives, but whether it is Thog's or Uther's group that survives, the community is greatly weakened. However, maybe Thog and Uther are the best of friends, respecting the strengths of the other while also understanding the weaknesses. Uther understands that persuading Thog is the best chance to ensure the survival of the greatest number of their people, and Thog understands that some of Uther's crazy ideas have resulted in unprecedented success. They talk and come up with a plan. They'll start the trek to the winter caves on the traditional route, but send their faster runners at the early stages of the journey. It will be easy to take a detour and switch to Uther's route. That is how the strongest tribes are created, by talking through disagreements and coming up with better plans. This is not what we are doing in our world today. For those readers who are more religiously minded, you might ask, what does the Bible say about the proper role between rulers and the people? You might be surprised to learn that one of the earliest books of the Bible, the book of Samuel, takes a very dim view of rulers, especially kings. The book of Samuel takes place after the Jews have fled Egypt in the Exodus and reestablished themselves in Israel. At this time, Israel had no king, but instead had judges who would settle issues brought before them. This period was known as the Age of Judges and lasted about a century. In his old age, Samuel appointed his sons judges over Israel. His firstborn was named Joel, his second son, Abijah. They judged at Beersheba. His sons did not follow his example, but sought illicit gain and accepted bribes, perverting justice. Therefore, all the elders of Israel came in a body to Samuel at Ramah and said to him, "Now that you are old and your sons do not follow your example, appoint a king over us, as other nations have, to judge us." Samuel was displeased when they asked for a king to judge them. He prayed to the Lord, however, who said in answer, "Grant the people's every request. It is not you they reject. They are rejecting me as their king." as they have treated me constantly from the day I brought them from Egypt to this day, deserting me and worshiping strange gods, so do they treat you too. Now grant their request, but at the same time, warn them solemnly and inform them of the rights of the king who will rule over them." Samuel delivered the message of the Lord in full to those who were asking him for a king. He told them, "The rights of the king who will rule you will be as follows. He will take your sons and assign them to his chariots and horses, and they will run before his chariot. He will also appoint from among them his commanders of groups of 1,000 and of 100 soldiers. He will set them to do his plowing and harvesting, and to make his implements of war and the equipment of his chariots. He will use your daughters as ointment makers, as cooks, and as bakers. He will take the best of your fields, vineyards, and olive groves, and give them to his officials. He will tithe your crops and your vineyards, and give the revenue to his eunuchs and his slaves. He will take your male and female servants, as well as your best oxen and asses, and use them to do his work. He will tithe your flocks, and you yourselves will become his slaves. When this takes place, you will complain against the king whom you have chosen, but on that day the Lord will not answer you." A person might be forgiven if he comes to the conclusion that God was the original insurrectionist. However, the correct interpretation is that God was suspicious from the beginning that having a king or any ruler was a good idea. His preference was that the people kept him in their hearts, and thus would not need any rulers. When one uses the frame of the Samuel story, it becomes clear why many believe the United States to be a divinely ordained nation. Our founding documents clearly place the people as the true masters of our country, if only we act like it. The rulers serve the people, not the other way around. The more power is given to the people, the more God's will is accomplished. People who demand more freedom are working in God's interest because they trust themselves to hear God's voice. The faithful are not fearful of the world around them. If you find a person filled with fear, then God is not with them. The premise of this book is that the battle we are fighting against the Great Reset is nothing more than an ancient battle between the forces of freedom and tyranny. And yet, the critical piece of this fight is not found with those who are publicly advocating for our historic freedoms, or among those advocating for greater governmental control of your life. The battle is won or lost by you, the public, deciding whether you want freedom over your life and decisions, or more governmental control. Choose wisely. Before we get to the Great Reset, we should ask the question, who is its most well-known advocate? The designation must surely belong to Klaus Schwab, founder and executive chairman of the World Economic Forum. This is how Schwab was described by Mark Benioff, chairman and CEO of the software company Salesforce, in the foreword of Schwab's 2016 book, The Fourth Industrial Revolution. As the founder and executive chairman of the World Economic Forum and its internationally renowned annual meeting in Davos, Switzerland, Klaus Schwab is uniquely placed to synthesize the experiences and views of leading global economic and technological experts, leaders of the world's largest businesses, and the perspectives of government and civil society representatives into a panoramic view of the challenges ahead. That's a helpful piece of information. If you think the attendees at the World Economic Forum, held every year in Davos, Switzerland, have an accurate view of what's happening at the street and neighborhood level of their respective countries, you're likely to be impressed by Schwab's credentials. If you believe the wealthiest individuals of every country are somewhat clueless about what's genuinely going on in their countries, perhaps blinded by their expensive cars, enormous mansions, kids with drug problems, and private jets, which spew an enormous amount of carbon into the atmosphere, by the way, as they globetrot every year to Davos, Switzerland for the World Economic Forum, you're likely to be less impressed. Here's how Benioff finishes his introduction to Schwab's book. The Fourth Industrial Revolution is an important book for understanding the major trends shaping our world. It provides a way of thinking and analyzing the historic changes taking place, so that we can collectively create an empowering, prosperous, human-centered future for all. I am sure that you will gain valuable insights for navigating the future from reading this fascinating book. As I've reviewed Schwab's work, he reminds me of a stage magician, diverting your attention with one hand so you don't see what he's doing with the other. It's easy to be fooled, as Schwab is comfortable with the kind of gee whiz, ain't it cool, upbeat pop psychology business books that were once so popular. One can view him as a well-trained persuader, but once you see the game he's playing, it's difficult to retain any respect for him. The construction of the last paragraph of Benioff's introduction is a case in point. He tells you Schwab's book is important for understanding the major trends shaping our world, as well as thinking and analyzing the historic changes taking place. You might find yourself being lulled into acceptance, thinking, yeah, I wouldn't mind reading a book about some important trends in our world. But Schwab isn't interested in persuading you. He's interested in getting you to accept the plans of the richest and most powerful people in the world, to make even more money and to have even more power over your life. Benioff reveals that true intentions of the book when he states that the purpose is to allow us to collectively create an empowering, prosperous, human-centered future for all. Really? Do you think Mark Benioff or Klaus Schwab is genuinely interested in your opinions? The truth is, they simply want us to be silent as they enact their plans. Here's a reality check. Have any members of the Davos group come up to you in the past few years and said, hey, I really want to understand your life. Can we talk for a couple hours? I'll give you my email and cell phone number in case you think of something later. I doubt it.